consumers want today. But more importantly, they know what consumers are going to want in the future. And so here to tell you about their vision of what the consumer needs for information, entertainment, and staying connected, and most importantly, how it relates to real estate and your success, I am pleased to introduce the Director of Local and Business-to-Business Markets for Google, Mr. Sebastian.
Good afternoon, how's everybody doing? I think I'm one of the last speakers before you are supposed to end the conference and go on the Vegas Strip. Thanks for that, Mike. Appreciate it. So far I've worked with Mike Fisher and his team in Coldwell Banker for probably 4 or 5 years now, and we've got a great partnership. Thank you very much. You guys are great customers. And I do a lot of these things. I do a lot of different conferences and speak at a lot of different things. And I have to say this was by far the most organized, most anal retentive conference I've ever been to. That said, I had one request that they've gotten wrong. Whenever I do big presentations, it says in the contract that there's a certain font size for my name. Can you go back to my name? Oh, I was going to joke that it was way too small, but it was way too big. I don't like to see my name that big. Yeah, way too big font size. Well, thanks so much, guys, for having us up here to talk, Google up here to talk. Again, great customers. We appreciate your business. But what I want to do, I talked to Mike in advance, and he wanted to focus a lot on the consumer today. So that's what I'm going to do. We've got some pretty good knowledge of the consumer. I think one could say that search, again, based on its scale, there's about 4 billion searches a day worldwide. Based on its scale, search can kind of be a proxy for what is actually happening in the world. So we've got a pretty good beat on what's going on from a consumer perspective based on their queries and their interests. So I'm going to give you a lot of data on what's going on in the consumer's mind across multiple platforms. Because the other thing that has changed over the last couple of years is it's not just a computer. It's not just a laptop. Now you have multiple screen sizes, and you can go back and forth between these screen sizes pretty easily. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. We've got some good data on mobile, on video, and obviously search. So I'm going to review some of that. So we'll talk a little bit about the current state of the digital consumer. Then I want to walk you through what a day in the life of a digital consumer probably is in the real estate buying process. I'll go through some pretty cool Google gadgets up here, walk through some technology with the goal of supporting a lot of the data that I've shown up here in a real world situation on what I think is happening in the buying process from a consumer perspective in real estate. And then finally, and hopefully most important to most of you, I want to give you some tactical ways that you can go back to your offices, into your market, and apply some of what I've talked about to your business. How do you connect with that digital consumer at the right time, at the right moment, and in the right platform? So let's do it. If at any point it gets boring, just get up and leave. All right? About 5 years ago, the largest marketer in the world, Procter & Gamble, coined this phrase called the first moment of truth. Here's the concept. There's a period of time, about 3 to 7 seconds, when you're in the aisle of a grocery store where you're making a critical decision on a consumer good. Could be a tube of toothpaste, could be some shampoo, but all the marketing messages that led up to that, as well as where it is on the shelf, the packaging, etc., influences a decision between 3 to 7 seconds when the consumer is walking by the aisle. And so Procter & Gamble focused all of their efforts on what they called that first moment of truth. Now, the second moment of truth is when they take the toothpaste back, they use it, and then that's when you can really tell if it's the right product for that particular consumer. But that's a little bit more of a product issue. From a marketing perspective and an engagement perspective, they focused on that 3 to 7 seconds. Now, there are probably corollaries in the real estate business with respect to the first moment of truth. Perhaps It could be a brick and mortar store with your signage. It could be a for sale sign in a front yard. We'll walk through what might be the first moment of truth for real estate. But honestly, the first moment of truth is becoming a little bit irrelevant. There's another moment of truth that happens well before the first moment of truth that is really changing the game, and it's going to be very important for you as marketers, as folks that are trying to build a customer base are going to have to focus on. So we know that online research has changed the game in multiple industries. When was the last time you went to a car dealership and you had no clue what you were doing? You hadn't configured the car in advance online. You didn't know exactly what the price was going to be or what you knew the sticker was going to be. You hadn't done research to help negotiate with the dealer. You do all of that well before you actually walk into the dealership. Same with travel. Before you came out here to Las Vegas, if you stayed at the Mirage or if you didn't stay at the Mirage, how many folks got online to see what they would do, what hotel would make the most sense for them to stay at? What would you do here in Vegas? There's hardly anything to do. I got to fill my nights with something to do in Las Vegas. Same with personal and beauty care. Reviews are huge. Reviews have taken off, online reviews for any type of product now. And the same goes for real estate. You guys know the stats. You've seen them. NAR comes out with them every year. It's clear that online is a big part of the buying process. This is some internal data that we have that shows the query growth, the amount of growth in folks typing into Google something real estate related or actually related to these various different industries. And you can see that real estate queries are up almost 200% since the beginning of 2008. Very similar to these other industries where it's so obvious that you clearly are doing lots of research well in advance of actually beginning kind of the transactional process. We also commissioned some research. I'll get to the research in a second. So there's this concept then that we're calling, and a lot of other folks have started to call it in the industry, this concept of the zero moment of truth. So no longer is the first moment of truth all that relevant. By the time they get to the aisle, their decision has probably already been influenced. By the time they get to your office, they know everything about you, if you're a real estate agent. Or by the time they ask to learn a little bit more about the market and connect directly with you, they know the homes they're looking for, they know a lot about the market. So you've got to make sure on all the various different platforms that you can play in, whether it's online or video or mobile, that you are applying all the right tactics to influence that consumer at this zero moment of truth. I'm going to refer back to a lot of research that we've done. Over the last 2 years, we've commissioned a study of buyers in the real estate process and what they do online. This is just another example that you could add to the reams of data that your own industry puts out about the role of digital and online in the buying process. Clearly, it's almost more important and more useful than any other medium, and it's critical that you make sure that you're there at the right time. So let's figure out how best to do it. So the most important thing for you now, from an online perspective, is how do you find that consumer and how do you communicate with them to influence that zero moment of truth? If play along, accept the hypothesis that most of your consumers have done a lot of this research, they're ready when they talk to you. How do you go and influence them well in advance of that first moment of truth and make sure you're optimizing the zero moment of truth? So we're going to talk about search first. Search is a core behavior. Again, 4 billion searches worldwide per day. So this isn't a technology that's going to go away. This isn't a social network that we're not quite sure if it's going to be here a couple years from now. Search is simply a core behavior. It's going to continue to innovate, but it's a core behavior. One thing that we found in the real estate space is we know there's been a market balancing. We know in many markets there's been a meltdown, however you want to describe it, because I piss someone off every time I try to explain whether it was a recession, a meltdown, a depression. I don't know. It's probably different in every market. But one thing is clear is there wasn't an online meltdown. There wasn't an online recession. There wasn't an online slowdown. On average, over the last 3 or 4 years, real estate queries on Google, this is all of our internal data, were up on average 20 to 30%. Last year in 2010, up around 16%. So clearly there's still interest on the consumer side. You'll have to believe me when I explain what each of these squiggly lines are, but the concept is it's not just overall real estate queries. These are 6 or 7 different categories of how we bucket queries related to real estate. Search for agents, search for homes, rental properties, new construction, search for neighborhoods are examples. They're all going up and to the right. Interestingly enough, the largest one there, especially over the last couple of years, that's the rentals category. So as folks have started perhaps to get priced out of the market, they might be looking at other apartment-related or rental-related searches. But in general, up and to the right for almost any real estate category online in search, which is good. We also know, this was some of the research that we commissioned, approximately 1 in 3 unique visitors to any real estate site, so this could be Coldwell Banker, this could be Trulia, this could be Realtor.com, actually gets there through search. Whether it's someone clicks on an organic link, someone clicks on a paid link, search is going to be critical. It's the kind of the fountainhead of getting into the real estate buying process. Raise your hands if you've been on Google in the last week. All right, so this slide makes sense to you. So, the key question too is not where search is happening. So a lot of folks think, you know what, a consumer is going to jump online, they're going to start looking for homes in their neighborhood, they want to see prices, they maybe want to find an agent, and it's only in the beginning of the process. That's not true at all. In fact, the research that we commissioned showed that over half of the folks that responded used search throughout the entire process of finding a home. We know, and the research played it out as well, that process is taking an increasingly long time, 12 to 18 months in some cases, finding a home, making an offer, and buying a home. And being there from a search perspective, if you're a real estate agent or if you're a big brand, is going to be important because consumers are navigating search throughout the entire process. Not just at the beginning, not just at the middle. But probably most important, and I've been in this space, I've been at Google 5 years focused on the local market, and real estate is one of those verticals. Before Google, I was at a real estate online firm, an online joint venture firm for about 7 years. I've been in this real estate online space for almost 15. Probably 10 years ago, when internet really became important, especially in real estate, everyone thought the agent was going to go away. That FSBOs were going to climb to 25, 30, 40%. If anything, the exact opposite happened. The agents became more important in the process. And all the data that we found suggests the more online savvy you are as a consumer, the more you search, the more apt you are to go work with an agent and to want to connect with an agent. So that's good news if you're a real estate agent. So in general, with respect to search, clearly search is at one of those elements of the zero moment of truth. So you've got, as a real estate agent, and I'll walk you through some tactics towards the end, you've got to make sure that you have the right presence at the right time during those various different real estate queries. So if it's queries and keywords related to your market, related to your experience, related to an individual home, make sure that you've got the right presence in there, and clearly that your brand has the right presence in there, so that you can begin to influence new consumers, new buyers, as they're going through the process at that critical zero moment of truth. So if search is a core behavior, everybody does it. Mobile will become search, and probably more important than search, in the next probably 12 to 18 months in the US. Many would say it already is worldwide. 3/4 of the world's population has a mobile phone. 5 billion people have a mobile phone, and in most countries, that's their primary way of connecting. That's how they get online. They don't have a computer, they don't have a PC. Mobile is everywhere. And we've kind of been saying this is the year for mobile for the last 4 years. This is actually the year for mobile. It's happening. I'll walk you through some of the technology. And because of the technology, because of speed, because of various different factors, we're just seeing an explosion and a revolution from a mobile perspective in the U.S., which is fantastic, just from a consumer perspective. Now, when I say the U.S. has gone mobile, everyone's had a phone. There's 2 types of phones. There is a feature phone, which is the old phones that can make calls, maybe it can text, and then there's a smartphone. All right, a smartphone is your iPhone, It's an Android, it's a high-end BlackBerry. It has a very high-end browser that effectively allows you to do all the same things you can do on a PC or a laptop. And in 5 years ago on a supercomputer, you can now do it on your smartphone. So the key element was not necessarily how many cell phones we had out there or feature phones. The key was how many smartphones do we have, because that changes things. All of a sudden, that smartphone becomes actually more valuable, even smarter than a PC. Because that phone right there, how many people get hives if they are away from their phone more than 2 minutes? Right? That phone is always with you. If the phone is always with you, and it's powerful and has a browser, then people can always find where you are. Folks can send you messages. They can target you. It becomes extremely valuable and powerful because it knows what your destination is. It knows where you're going. It's local. Secondly, it's connected. It knows all your friends. It has all your contacts. So all of a sudden, all of the connections that you can make are all kind of baked in the phone, and as technology gets better, it all kind of comes into this device. And lastly, I talked about the hive situation. From a passion perspective, I don't care about my laptop. I care about my phone. If I lose my phone, I'm screwed, right? So the mobile takes on that much more of importance now, especially from a smartphone perspective. The analysts expected that this level of penetration for the smartphone was going to be at 50% in 2012. We beat it by almost 18 months. It's happening faster than we thought. Now, what happens once you're on a smartphone? You start to see web usage explode. So approximately, I think, 15% of our query traffic on Google is when someone's on a mobile device. The expectation is by 2013 that half of all internet traffic is going to come from a mobile device. The other half from a laptop. That's a game changer. That's a big deal. So all the stuff that you're learning on how to do search engine optimization or how to build out your site or videos, you got to learn those for the PC, but now you're going to have to learn them for mobile because it's probably going to be even more important. We talked a little bit about query growth. Google took off about 10 years ago. This was the hockey stick growth chart for search. All of our scientists look at this almost on a daily basis. The current growth patterns of query growth from a mobile perspective are very similar to the rates of growth that we had in search in the early days. And search, again, kind of took off very quickly. So we're really starting to see the promise in mobile that we've been hearing about for the last couple of years. And it's in real estate. So again, this is from some of the research. 35% of the home buyers are using their mobile phones during the process. And that's only going to increase significantly over the next, probably next handful of months. This is a chart that shows you why. So every time a new device is launched, we see spikes in search. You can see back in 2007 when the iPhone came on board, start to get a little interesting. The day after the iPhone launched, the searches on mobile on Google went up 50 times. 50 times increase when the old iPhone was slow, didn't have 3G when that launched. Then you see when the iPhone 3G launched. All of a sudden now this is getting interesting. It's kind of like laptop experience. And then it takes off after Android was introduced. We got in the game because we know where mobile is going. We launched a platform called Android, which is a software offering for phones. And we made it free to lots of different manufacturers, and all of a sudden you just saw lots of manufacturers develop lots of phones and launch them into the market. More and more, that along with iPhone's popularity have contributed to that 50% smartphone penetration. Google's Android platform had 7% of the market in October. We had 31% of the market in February. So it's growing very quickly, and obviously everyone knows about iPhone and iPhone usage. So this is a good sign in general if you believe in the power of mobile computing. Important for you guys is mobile is local. So 40% of all of our mobile traffic on mobile maps, 40% of our maps traffic, so everyone's been on Google Maps, 40% of that traffic comes from a mobile device. 1 in 3 searches on a mobile device has local intent. About 1 in 6 has local intent on a computer. So you can see the impact that mobile is going to have on local industries, namely real estate. You guys are accepting it. You're there. You're engaging it. You've got the apps. You've got, I know you have the iPhone app. I know you have an Android app. You've got a great iPad tablet app. And I think you're developing one for the Android tablet. So you're there. But if you're an individual agent, you have to really start to figure out how mobility and how the mobile platform is going to change the game. Be ready, because it's here. So the last area I wanted to talk about is this intersection of social and video and display and what this all means and what's happening. We'll talk about this a little bit. Obviously, search is important. We talked about that. Obviously, mobile is important. But the first sites that ever really got into real estate online were the Realtor.coms of the world. We've seen Trulia and Zillow take off. 50% of the consumers that we talked to in the home buying process are going to these sites. So those are important too. So you have to make sure you've got a strategy to use them, to leverage them, but then also to make sure that you're contextually targeting and contextually meeting consumers during that process. You can't just connect at the zero moment of truth with a home buyer in search or mobile. You have to look across the web and figure out where they're going, where they're navigating, and then send them messages, engage with them throughout that process. And now you can through technology. So here's an example. We're on the New York Times. We're reading information about homes, about the home buying process, the home market, real estate. Based on the contextual nature and content on that page, we can tell you, all right, we're going to serve a real estate ad. So we weren't helping New York Times on that top ad, Fossil. Who knows? Maybe that is their core demographic. But I can darn right tell you that there's probably someone interested in the Coldwell Banker message when they're looking at the home section of the New York Times. The technology can enable you to do that. Make sure you take advantage of it. The other nice thing about online advertising is consumers actually find it relatively useful. So whether it's video advertising, website advertising like display advertising, or even search, compared to almost any other type of advertising, they're actually engaged. They actually find it interesting. So take advantage of that. We've also seen, if you guys do maybe work with local newspapers and you do some display advertising, but you know that search is obviously important at that zero moment of truth, there's a key interplay between display advertising and search. So make sure when you're messaging something, when you're coming up with a campaign, when you're starting to engage with the buyers out there at these critical moments, that it's kind of a 360 view. You're using all the various different digital assets because they play into each other and they leverage each other. There's a lot of complementaries between all of them. The other major platform that has taken off in probably the last, almost the last 36 months, 2-3 years, is video. These are the search query, this is search query growth for real estate related terms on YouTube versus laptop. So I talked to you how real estate queries on search were kind of going up into the right 20-30%. Look at the rate of growth on the YouTube side. Right now, I talked to YouTube last night. We've got an internal program that allows us to do it. There's 427,000 videos related to buying a house on YouTube right now. This is an important platform. Very important platform. It's the second largest site in the world. There are 35 hours of video content uploaded to YouTube every minute. Isn't that nuts? That's a lot of content. And anymore, it's not just the dog on the skateboard. All right, that's pretty cool. My kids enjoy that. And that will entertain you for 18 seconds. But the fastest growing type of content on YouTube right now is how-to content. So for home improvement, lots of opportunity to engage with consumers when they're looking at how-to. There's a decent amount of video on how to manage through a buying process, how to refinance a mortgage, a lot of that, but especially a lot of hands-on type things where you want to see and you want to be engaged by video. Before I go to this slide, the second largest search site in the world behind Google is what? What did you say? YouTube. Good answer. So it's not Yahoo, it's not Bing. More searches are being done on YouTube than any other property other than Google. That's an important time to kind of capture that consumer, that buyer, at that key zero moment of truth, and have something to tell them. And you can't just send them to a website. You can't just tell them something in a text ad. You got to have some video content to engage them. You have to engage them with that platform when they're engaged on YouTube. They're engaged in viewing and passing along and socializing video. You can see here, this is what folks are doing when they're on YouTube, when they're looking for videos, respective just to real estate. So about what you would expect, they certainly want to look for homes, but neighborhood information is critically important. And we talked about, Mike talked about in the beginning, knowledge of the market, experience. What a better way to get that point across than in a video. And make sure that but you got to get folks there, you got to engage with them at that key zero moment of truth. You guys are doing it. Once and again, the first major real estate broker to build out a presence on YouTube like this. There's a lot of brand channels with big real estate brokers across the country that kind of follow Coldwell Banker, but nothing even close to the presence that you've got on YouTube. The map functionality, the video content, but you still got to keep loading it up there. Folks are going there. You guys have done a good job getting folks there. You got to make sure you have good, valuable video content for them to want to come back. So social networking. What does this mean for the real estate space? Frankly, I don't know. I'm not quite sure. There's not a silver bullet yet for how best to engage in, say, in Facebook or on Twitter or even on YouTube and connect with folks socially. What's the return on investment? You can do a lot of that math on search advertising and even some of the other digital components. I think the one thing that is clear is it's not going away. Facebook, YouTube weren't here 5 years ago. They're now two of the largest of the top 5 largest sites in the world. Twitter wasn't even around 2.5 years ago, and now it has an obnoxious amount of users on a daily basis. So that's a big number in Google's. So it's clear, like you can read all the headlines. We know that that social networking is important. I don't have the answer on social networking. I don't think Facebook does. I think they do from a consumer perspective, and clearly the consumers are there. The question is, how do you engage them? Do they want to be engaged when they're on Facebook by their real estate agent? I don't know. But perhaps you can begin to target some messages in that environment, surround yourself in that environment in a soft way so as not to interrupt, to start maybe taking advantage and influencing another zero moment of truth. So what's next? Clearly, maybe there is a silver bullet for Twitter and for Facebook and for social networks. We'll figure that out, I'm sure, in the next 12, 18 months. One thing that I'm going to talk about here in a couple minutes is connected TV. So we saw how things took off when we went from a feature phone to a phone connected to the internet, connected to the cloud, connected to all the power of a high-end browser. We now are beginning to get that promise in television. So everyone has a big TV in their house. Everyone still consumes massive amount of TV and media from TV. But now it's actually going to be a smart device where you can, it's effectively your laptop on the wall. We'll talk a little bit about that promise later on when I talk about Google TV. And lastly, I think what's most exciting, and I'm not quite sure how relevant this will be for real estate, but I suspect within 6 months, I'll be driving by, say, a Starbucks, and I have a Starbucks loyalty card. In my smartphone, I'll have my loyalty information, I'll have my credit cards preloaded into my smartphone. I'll drive by Starbucks, they'll know where I am based on my location. They'll send me a promotional ad for a coupon for a latte. I'll get it, it's in my phone, go to Starbucks, I will pay with my phone. So Starbucks will have a little reader right there at the register. I'll pay with the phone, charges my credit card, credits me the promotion. And if I'm Starbucks, that is the silver bullet. You finish that line of online influence, zero moment of truth, all the way to the true transaction offline. That's eventually what's going to happen. It's around the corner. All the phones are being loaded with this kind of stuff. But that's when this stuff really gets exciting. We're in the second inning. We're in the second inning of digital. And it's really going to take off when a lot of these things really continue to advance. So that's kind of what's happening from a consumer perspective. Now let's talk through some technology and go through a day in the life of a digital consumer. So follow me here. I'm going to tell a story. 5 years ago, my wife and kids, at the time I had 2 kids who were 2 and 4. We lived in the city, we live in Chicago. We needed to move out to the suburbs, right? We got the itch, we wanted a little bit more space, we had to start thinking about better schools. We knew we wanted to be in a cool suburb, so something that had a little bit of hip factor. It was relatively close to the city, it was diverse, it had a lot of the great things we loved about the city in that suburb. There are 2 in Chicago, I think, Oak Park and Evanston. So we knew that's all we knew. Then we embarked on the home buying process, and it was a pain in the rear end. Even with the technology that we had 5 years ago, it was still difficult for me to figure out what was the right neighborhood, what was the best broker in town, what homes were for sale, what were still on the market, what listings were out of date, all of that. What I want to do now is pretend 5 years have passed. I'm now in the current day, but we still lived in Chicago. We were still making that decision. We moved to Evanston, we moved to Oak Park, but we had all the technology that we have today. This is how I think the home buying process goes. This is where I start. All right? This is probably where I'll make the decision on which neighborhood to live. I'm going to do some research, but my 500 or so friends are going to tell me who I probably trust the most, especially the ones that are based in Chicago, which direction do I want to go and why. That's where I start the process now. I start the process online, I do a search, and plenty of searches on Oak Park, on Evanston, and that was the first 15 days of my home buying process. I talked to my social network, I started to get some feedback, and I started to do some online activity. So here's the stat for you. Did I already say this? 60% of the world's population has a mobile phone, sleeps with their mobile phone 3 feet away from them. It's an actual stat. All right? I know it's true for me. I get up in the morning based on my alarm clock on my phone. So invariably at the end of the night, I put everything behind me, I'm ready to go to bed, talk to my wife, we'll relax, I'll pick up the phone, and then I'll go crazy. I'll get sucked right back into work and everything that happens. But it's reality. That's kind of what we're faced with. So I'm going to walk you through a 24-hour period that starts with this. A buddy sends me an email 11 p.m. at night, says, hey, I just saw actually a Coldwell Banker for sale sign in my neighbor's yard. I live in Evanston, you would love it. The neighborhood's great. I think the price is probably okay for you guys. You let me know, but I think you guys would love it. Here's the address. So let's go over to the laptop. All right. So it was 11 o'clock at night. I get up, first thing in the morning, I'm on the road. I'm going to New York City in the morning. I pack, I'm ready to go. I got about 2 minutes, a little bit of cereal, and I jump online. I remember, I go open up my email, and I do the search for, what was the address? 2809 Grant. See, look at that. That's Google Instant. It's building my search before I even... Internally, we called that psychic search, but we decided not to launch with psychic search because we thought everyone would get freaked out about it. But it's psychic. So I do a search on the home. I click on the map. This is where a lot of stuff happens. I get a pretty good sense. I don't know Evanston too well yet. I don't know Oak Park too much yet. So I want to get a general sense of where we are within the neighborhood. I know the lake is nearby, so I start spanning over. I know everyone is familiar with this. But this obviously gives you a great sense of what's going on. So I can see the neighborhood, I can get a sense of what the curb appeal is like. We've also started to launch a few things in maps that I think are pretty cool. There are these things called layers. So I'm going to click on photos. What photos are around the neighborhood? So I click on this. This is where Uncle Buck was filmed. Anyone seen the movie Uncle Buck? All right. So Evanston, the guy who directed Home Alone and Uncle Buck, he grew up in Evanston. So all these movies took place in Evanston. So all the homes were actually there. So I see that. But I check my watch. All right, I've got to run to the, this is cool, I want to show you this. I got to run to the cab. I'm out of time. So I'm going to go back here to my original search, and I'm done. This is a tablet, all right? You're going to see them everywhere if you haven't already, whether it's an iPad or this is a Zoom Android tablet. I didn't actually believe it. I didn't think that I would actually want to manage all this many devices, but once I got the tablet, I found lots of different cool ways to use it. So I think you're going to see them take off even more. But this is what I mean about moving screen to screen. How many times have you been on your laptop, then you're running out, but you want to pass on all of your online activity to your device? So I press this button when I'm on the laptop, and it sends it to my tablet. All right? I actually coded that functionality. I'm an engineer. I'm kidding. I had absolutely nothing to do with that, but I will accept the applause and I will pass that on to our folks in Mountain View. So now I'm in the cab. I'm on my tablet, I'm headed to O'Hare. I pick it back up again, right? I want to view it in Maps. Here's some cool things. We just launched this functionality on tablets. So I'm just going to drag this. See that? Isn't that kind of cool? It allows you to kind of sail over with that 3D, and I can pull it back to go straight. It looks even cooler if you go in Street View, but it's something different. But again, I use layers all the time. So once you have layers layered on top Maps, when I'm in the cab, it's about 7 o'clock. I'm headed to O'Hare in the morning. I want to know what the traffic patterns are going to be like if I move here. If I'm going to drive to the city one day, or if I'm going to take the train, what's it look like? Well, at least according to this, here's the expressway over here. It's all red. These things, this is actual real-time traffic tracking. I can go over here. I've also got the layer for transit, so I can see all the subway lines, the metro lines. And again, it's just, these are times when you're just starting the home buying process. There's opportunities to advertise on Maps. There's opportunities to connect with buyers when they're using these types of technologies at that critical zero moment of truth. So let's X out of this for 1 second. Let's go back to Google. So my wife gets up. I'm already at O'Hare, taking off. She gets up, 7:30, 8 o'clock, gets the kids ready. But she also, the first thing she does, 2809 Grant Street, Evanston, to start figuring out what's going on. Let's look at this search results page and see what's there. This is competition. So Coldwell Banker is there, which is great. Good local, good quality content that we're indexing or showing up there. But you also see lots of other key sites. Trulia, Zillow, Realtor. She can go and see videos directly from the search results page. This is the new battleground. Again, my wife and I just got a reference for a place in Evanston that we actually feel pretty good about. We're starting to do that search. This is again, the new battleground for me, the consumer, at the zero moment of truth. What I'm also going to do, though, homes for sale in Evanston, Illinois, because I'm going to go a little bit broader. So now I'm actually kind of interested in that particular home. That's not bad. But now I want to see what else is out there. Who else is selling? What are the agents? What homes are for sale? You see Coldwell Banker up here, a decent amount, but we also see a lot of other players. We even see some individual agents. I think there's a Baird Warner agent up there who is specifically going after folks just starting the home process in Evanston, Illinois. Again, the new battleground that you got to be aware of, because this is the consumer. This is what they're doing. So, I land in New York. I want to talk to Kathy about what she thinks of the house. Call Kathy Mobile. Call Kathy Mobile. Call Kathy Mobile. Okay, I'll call Kathy Mobile. So I talked to Kathy. She says, you know what? I'm actually pretty interested. I work in Evanston. I'm going to drive by the office because I looked when I did all my research. I saw that the actual listing agent, Susan Roche and Coldwell Banker in Evanston, that's the listing agent. So I'm going to drive by the office. I'm going to get her card. I want to schedule a showing. I want to learn a little bit more about things. So we go to the office. She drives by. She gets to the office, and this is in the window, right? This is actually in the window. It was a big, big poster. I took a picture of it before I came here because I wasn't going to take the poster on the plane. I just take a picture of this QR code. It analyzes, and it just pops up the URL. I click on it. That's the local Coldwell Banker office, right? That's relevant. That's relevant. It's a smartphone. I wanted to learn a little bit more about the office. I haven't actually talked to an agent yet. When I got there, the agent wasn't there. Susan wasn't there. But I got her card. All right? Kathy's not going to call the agent. That's going to be my job. But what she's going to do, she's going to get she does not like to talk to anybody about this kind of stuff. So I'm going to take a picture of the business card. It's analyzing. You see that? What it's done is it's taken all of the information from the business card and given me an opportunity to just add to contacts. So I've now just taken the business card, add it to contacts, and and she's just going to email it to me. All right. So I'm in the cab. It's 5 o'clock in New York City. I get this email from my wife telling me, "Listen, I love this place. I want to set up a showing. Call the agent." I think she's good. I'm not quite sure, but she's got the listing, and I think we should talk to her. So I get that. I get on my trusty tablet. Coldwell Banker, Susan Roche. I met Coldwell Banker, Susan Roche. So, this is what happens, guys. If you are a consultant, if you're a professional, if you're a service provider, and you're connecting with someone's going to look you up on Google. The number of vanity search URL or queries we have is obnoxious, to use another Google word. But look what happens here. She's got a blog on Active Rain. I'm going to go in and I'm going to see her LinkedIn profile. I see she went to Evanston High School. She's been in Evanston for 30 years. I go on Trulia. She's actually rated, and there's 3 or 4 reviews for her on Trulia. All of a sudden, it's a done deal. I'm going to call Susan. I'm going to connect with her. Chances are she's got my list. She's got the buy side. She's going to be my listing agent, and we're off to a relationship. The other thing I did here was voice search. 1 in 4 searches on Google from a mobile device are done via voice search. I didn't believe it. I've started to use it a lot more. If you haven't used the technology, use it. We've improved it a lot because every time someone does a voice search, it learns. 1 in 4 searches on a mobile device on Google are voice search. So, the next thing I'm going to do, I'm still in the cab. My family is fired up. They're excited. They're ready to go see the home tomorrow. Let's call them. Sophie, answer. All right, the network is too slow. My kids are in the back row on their laptop. I travel a bunch. Probably 2 nights a week I have dinner with my family via video chat on my tablet. The technology is there. I was going to show you today, but the network's too slow. Believe me. She's cute, my little daughter and my son. All right, so it's almost 24 hours later. It's almost 11 o'clock at night. Can we go back to the PowerPoint? I'm in New York, my hotel room. I'm still working. I've got my laptop on my lap, cranking away, but I've got the television on. I'm watching HGTV. We're in the home buying process. This is very relevant to me. My wife is at home on her television, watching HGTV, bottle of wine. It's the end of the night. We see an ad for Coldwell Banker driving us to YouTube. I'm on my laptop. This is easy, right? So go back to On Location YouTube Coldwell Banker's channel. That was the messaging I saw. 60201. Search. Lots of good listing content in the Evanston area. I hadn't seen this yet.
Evanston is...
This tells me about Evanston. Again, these are videos that are being consumed in massive amounts. Neighborhood-type profiles on YouTube. We've got the data. I hadn't seen that yet, but I got my signals from a television advertisement. I have my laptop. That was easy. But what's my wife to do? She's in the basement. She doesn't have a laptop. She's got Google TV. She's got a smart TV. She sees the ad. It's a one-click on her on her remote control. She goes over to the YouTube bookmark. She clicks it. That's the YouTube homepage on that night. Does one search on Coldwell Banker On Location. Drills in one more time. She's watching the same video that I was watching on my laptop, 1,000 miles away from New York, on the massive, big screen TV in the basement, through 2 clicks. I wanted to do it live, but it's a real pain to do Google TV in a demo like this. But I've got it here. We'll give it away to someone, right? It's a sweet product. You got to see it in action. So let's go back to the. Let's stay right here. So that was 24 hours, right? That I used 4 different types of screens. And the reason I went from 4 different types of screens because I got signals from different media. So it all kicked off because my neighbor saw a Coldwell Banker for sale sign. I drove by the brick and mortar Coldwell Banker office. I used my cell phone. I got more information via QR code. I got signals through search to go to Coldwell Banker and to do research about the agent. I was able to see a video, and I was signaled that video based on an advertisement and media that you did on cable, national cable. So the strategy that you guys are employing is smart. Not everyone does it. You got to make sure you have a 360 marketing strategy, because now I'm consuming all that different type of media on all those various different platforms, and I'm at my 0 moment of truth. I'm going to buy a house in the next 60 days. So forward at 60 days. We close on the house on Grant Street. Susan was great. Great agent. Everything was organized. We closed. She gives us a bottle of wine. So everything with Susan has been perfect so far. All right, she gives us a bottle of wine. My wife's a wine snob, right? So the first thing she does when we get in the car, she goes, "Oh, let's see what kind of wine this is." All right? Just takes a picture of it. Sterling Vineyards, 2005. Analyzing. It's slow. It's a good bottle of wine. I just bought it in the lobby. It's expensive. All right, so it's a really good vineyard, and I did all of that research right there from my phone. Just another kind of example of the power of technology and how it's going to kind of change behavior, and you got to make sure you're ready for it. So let's go back to the slide. I want to end here on what you guys can do. So that was a day in the life. That's how technology is being used, again, to influence the zero moment. But here's what you have to do. There's tactics on search, on mobile, and on social and video that I want you guys to take back with you. The first is whether it's search engine optimization, search engine marketing. You'll hear about lots of it. You just got to make sure you have a good balance of both. Search engine optimization is making sure if you have a blog, if you've got an agent site off of your brand, etc., you have good, valuable content there. If you do, the search engines will pick it up and you'll be found. But then make sure you also have campaigns very specific to your objectives, and you do search engine marketing to make sure you're grabbing those folks at the 0 moment of truth. Once you get them to click, you got to take them somewhere useful. So have a landing page that just doesn't have your high school photograph, right? Your glamour shot. Make sure it has valuable content about what separates you from other agents in the market, that knowledge and experience. It's got videos. Make sure you're taking folks at their 0 moment of truth to something that's very relevant. You'll be able to convert them. Can I go back? Sorry, I was premature on my click. Make sure you own your market. So I know you guys are maniacal about owning your market, your farm area, making sure you have it canvassed very well offline. You got to make sure you do the same thing online in search. Go forward, move. Compete. Go back. Compete. So I talked about the battleground there. You've got to make sure you're analyzing your competition, you understand where they're at, and you're always updating your campaigns to make sure you're competing effectively. And then lastly, kind of like I talked about, develop your overall objectives, figure out what the measurement is, and then undergo all this stuff. We want you to test and iterate, but unless you know what you kind of want to get out of it and you have clear goals about your campaign, you're not going to succeed. Step back, organize it, and then get going. On the mobile side, start with search. This is easy. 20-25% right now of searches are happening from a mobile device. You saw in less than a year it's going to be half and half. So make sure all the things that you're doing in search on the PC, you're applying those same best practices to mobile. Make sure you have the right mobile assets. Drive awareness of your brand. So there's going to be lots of new opportunities from an advertising perspective, from an engagement perspective on mobile that you're going to want to take advantage of. You've got great television creative at the Coldwell Banker level. Leverage that. Use some of the same messaging in mobile. And then constantly refine. Mobile is definitely at the top of the first inning. It's still very early. Lots of different things work. Some things don't. So make sure you test and modify as you go. And finally, in social and video, I did that search for Grant Street. There were like 5 videos in Evanston. Home videos, home listings. There are a lot more homes for sale in Evanston. I had to go to the community profile when I pulled up because Grant Street wasn't on there. We need more video content from listings. It will work for you, I guarantee it. So make sure you take your smartphone, take your flip cam wherever you go. Upload these listings to the web. It's fast. It doesn't take much bandwidth or time. Again, leverage television advertising. You're doing good stuff there. Make sure you're leveraging the message. Connect with your customers through social networks. Don't go crazy. Don't go creepy. But make sure you're at least dipping your toes in the water there and you're starting to connect with them at the right time. Ask their permission, but at some point maybe you want to be friends and that's the best way to connect with them. But then constantly surround yourself in the various different environments, whether it's Twitter, whether it's Facebook, whether it's YouTube. Start to understand what those environments are and figure out the best way to start to surround your message and influence those folks at the 0 moment of truth. So we talked about what the consumer is doing. I tried to give you a sense of what a day in the life might look like with technology. And then hopefully these are some interesting tactics you can take back with you and apply when you get back to your home office. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.